Welcome to Femme Fatale by Helen. I have a very dear friend here, a serial entrepreneur, amazing woman, amazing open-minded female that I really look up to her, and a YPO member, and I really appreciate her time and her coming here in my podcast. Jade, really thank you so much. I appreciate your time. I appreciate you coming here and discussing women and society and basically how we see ourselves as an entrepreneur in the society and what got you in order to get here. I wanted to introduce yourself and then I wanted to chat with you.
Thanks, Helen. So fun to be here, and my favorite topic. I love talking about entrepreneurism.
Very nice. Jade, I met you almost a year ago, and then, I got introduced to the world of the YPO and to this woman that they are 1% or maybe even a less than a percent worldwide. And it kind of opened my eyes to another type of woman that exists out there. These were unique women. These are women that nothing stops them. These are women that they create reality. And like the way their belief system is, it wasn't what was fed to them. It was something they found on their own terms. So I want you to tell me about how did you start? How did you become this Jade that who you are right now? I know you as this a go-getter, a super strong person. So I want you to tell me about how did Jade become Jade?
Yeah, that's actually a really interesting question that I have explored over the last few years, because I always wondered what were the elements that got me to where I am, because I grew up in a pretty poor family and we were immigrants. My parents were not entrepreneurs. They just worked very normal jobs, stayed in the same job their whole life until they retired. And when I graduated from college, I automatically earned more than my parents made. So, but I've always wanted to be really different. And for example, in high school, when all the other kids were, all the other Asian kids were playing violin or piano, I wanted to play the jazz trumpet. Or instead of ice skating, which I did also, I wanted to run track. And I ended up going to college not on a academic scholarship, but on an athletic scholarship. Yeah. And then I have always just looked for opportunities where I could be different. And one of those was when I decided I want to start my own business. Nothing really was out of the question. And I thought that one way I could stand out was being in an industry or in a business that was typically all male oriented. And so this decision could have been right or wrong, but at the time I decided to start a construction company.
Oh, wow.
And construction is actually turned out to be a very difficult business, but it was true that I did stand out from the rest. Not only was I a woman, but I was also a minority. But what really worked against me the most was that I was young at the time. I was 26 when I started that company. And I remember one of the things that I used to worry about the most was what to wear to go to the job site. Okay. Because I just was so concerned that I wanted to look professional, but as someone in the construction industry, I couldn't wear a business suit or a dress.
I see.
I needed to be taken seriously, but also needed to fit in.
I see.
So I actually ended up wearing cowboy boots and jeans just like this.
No way.
With these bootcut jeans. Actually, these were one of those pairs. And a button-up shirt. And that was what I wore every day for many years. And it's so interesting because about 10 years later, I remember thinking to myself, you know what? I do not give a shit what I wear today, because I had at that time finally gotten to a place where our reputation as a business preceded us, or me. It just didn't matter to me anymore. Like, you can think whatever you want about me or the business. The fact is, we do a really damn good job, and we're in really high demand, so it just doesn't matter what anyone thinks anymore. So that was a really interesting lesson to me.
And you built that credibility for yourself.
Yeah.
In that young age.
Yeah.
So 10 years after, is you're 30 or you're still in your 20s?
No, yeah. I mean, so I started that business. I started it with, I cashed in my 401ks for after working a few years after school. And I had taken out a student loan and then only went to business school for 1 year, and then took the rest of that student loan money, and then maxed out my credit cards, and started this construction company. I actually ended up asking my mom for a home equity line of credit on the house that I grew up in, and that was basically all she had. But she gave it to me and didn't tell my dad.
Wow.
And then the recession hit. So then basically we got no business. It was a very terrible time, actually. But it's a great, it was a great lesson in that you just never know, like, what path the universe has for you. It was a very stressful year, that first year of the recession, but we were in Texas, and that's when I pivoted to start working for the federal government, because we just were a military town, and that became the business that I have today. So if it weren't for that tough time in the recession, we would never be the business that we were today. So we started working for the government. I mean, my first contract was a $2,000 contract, and then a $13,000 contract, and then $65,000, and we just got really lucky a few times. We happened to be on the naval base at Corpus Christi when a hurricane blew through and blew off all the roofs, and that was my first $1 million contract.
Wow.
Repairing and drying in all the roofs on that base.
Wow.
And then the journey has been like that ever since. It's been like up, down, up, down, up, down,
Oh, wow.
But I've been really lucky. I have an incredible team there. And so about 10 years ago, I pretty much took early retirement. I still own the business 100%, but I let the executive team take over as leadership, and decided to travel, invest in real estate. And that is when I bought my surf resort about 6-7 years ago in Nicaragua. And that was my first entrepreneurial venture into passion and something that I'm really passionate about. So that's a lifestyle business, but it truly is an exercise for me in being in the present, and also in investing in joy and happiness, and not really caring about anything else. We have an incredible team there, truly like family. And I had a shaman once that told me that that hotel was mine even before I owned it. Like, it was built for me. And it's beautiful. And it's a really magical, sexy place. And I just came back from there 2 days ago.
So. I also saw the picture that you're posting. Is very
and so right now it's like my integration back into reality. So, but it's a place of true like peace and love and joy and passion. The surf is so incredible there. So then after that, I spent then it was COVID, and I had a couple years also just kind of getting through that and raising my kids. I have 3 children. And then that became a time where my kids were starting to grow up, Yes. And I no longer needed to be a small kid mom. And then I started asking myself, God, like, what's more in life for me, And my 40th birthday started looming ahead. And I also just questioned whether I really wanted to stay married. And so all of these things came together, and it was like pretty much the true definition of what people in society would call maybe a midlife crisis. But it didn't feel like a crisis to me. It felt like freedom. Like it felt like this amazing opportunity to reshape my life in the next 40 years. And so when I was about 37, my daughter was 1. I started this journey of like self-exploration, and I started traveling by myself. I started surfing a lot and traveling to surf. And then, I started having these hard discussions with my ex-husband about like what we wanted our marriage to look like and what kind of like freedom I wanted. I honestly felt like I was coming into like the sexual prime of my life, and also that I really wanted to explore that as well. And that, we talked a lot about it, but it really was a point of where I wanted a lot more, and that just wasn't what he wanted. So eventually we went our separate ways there.
Actually, the first time in my life I heard the word polyamorous, it was you. I was like, what does that mean? Can you please explain? And then when you told me about it, like my jaw was dropping. I'm like, how did this woman was able to expand the horizon of thinking, to be so comfortable in her own skin, to say, like, I'm comfortable with this, and I don't care what anyone else is comfortable or not, but I'm coming to these terms that normal life doesn't suit me anymore. Like, I think I was shocked by the fact, like, how open-minded you were. So, like, I'm very glad that you talked about this, and then you used the word freedom. How did you allow yourself to be that free?
Well, I mean, I just started questioning the default of thinking of society, which is that we go to college, get a job, get married, have kids, and that's it. And I was like, is that really all that it is? And why is that the default, And then the default about marriage is, you get together, you get married, and then there's this expectation that you're only with each other, and if the other person even claims that they think someone else is attractive, there's this rage of jealousy, and all this is accepted, right? But like, did you ever stop to question, like, why is it acceptable that people are angry just because their partner finds another person to be cute? Why is that the default? Like, why can't it just be like, yes, there's a lot of attractive people in the world, and there's a lot of attractive energy in the world. It's and that it's okay to explore these different kinds of energy with all these different people, and that doesn't mean that you're going to lose the other person as a partner. Why can't we allow each other that freedom? And I've discovered it's a very big spectrum of things. It can be you've chosen together to be monogamous. The problem is that very few people really are. It's what it is that
that is very correct what you said. We pretend that is we have monogamy, but really what's going on in the society, and this is why we have so many cheating, because they're not truthful with themselves and with their partner, or even what their expectations are. They never talk about what they want. They never talk about how they feel inside, so the feeling is kept. So if you're really not attracted, or if you want to really explore other things, you should have a right to at least express it, or see if your partner is willing to change their mindset or go a different direction with you.
I mean, we know by the rates of cheating that like the true monogamy and the definition of it just is very rare. And there may be like many different reasons for that, but part of it, like, to me, it never really resonated with me. I felt like we're animals, just like every other animal in the animal kingdom, and most animals in the animal kingdom aren't monogamous, I also felt like I wanted true communication, like true authenticity with a partner. I want someone who I can say like, hey, let's experiment with this or that, and not have to lie or like be secretive about things. And I think that like traditional relationships, people like keep things to themselves because they don't want to hurt the other person. True. And this concept of like, we don't want to make the other person jealous, or we don't want to be jealous. It's like, have we ever actually like sat down and thought through what is jealousy and like where does it come from? And like, why do we allow ourselves to be eaten up by it?
Interesting.
And it's actually a really beautiful thing to explore. I mean, I'm doing it now, I have the same feelings as everyone else. I mean, I'm human.
Yes.
And so if I were to picture my partner with another woman, all those initial feelings come up, right?
Yeah.
But then you like take a breath and you think, okay, but I want all of us to experience life, and I want all of us to experience joy and happiness, and this doesn't mean that he's not my partner. And then there's this term called compersion, which I'm just learning, and that term is the act of finding joy in someone that you love, finding pleasure. So I actually used to think about this in surfing. Like once I had shoulder surgery, so I couldn't surf, but my surf friend came to visit me.
Okay.
So I took her to Malibu and I got her a coach, and she was surfing while I was watching.
Yeah.
Well, I was watching her surf, but every time she got a wave, I was so happy. I was like, "Yeah, Sarah, go, go, go!" And like that, and I told her afterwards, I was like, when you got a wave, it was like I was happier than you were.
Oh my God. Okay.
And I kind of feel like it's the same way. Like if I can get to a point where seeing my partner feel joy and love also makes me feel joy and pleasure as well. Like that's like the ultimate goal.
Interesting.
Right? And
Interesting.
But the thing is, it's all in your head, all of it.
Yeah, you know, like what do you think about this? Like when I have medium amount of the love for a partner, which I'm not like very saturated with the love, like I'm perfectly fine. I don't even get jealous.
Yeah.
Like that feeling like barely will come to my head.
Yeah.
But we have sometimes a certain type of relationship which we are like, like in love with a person, and then that time the sharing is like becomes really, really hard, which like I never was in a lifestyle that I could share my partner. I have no idea how does that feel, but power to you that you can even think like that. It just proves to me we're true 1%, true open-minded, true open to like you're disattached from belief systems that we've been taught to human over these thousands of years. And then
but it can also be that it can also be that you guys are enjoying together. So it doesn't always, that's what I mean, that it's a spectrum. Because there are a lot of people in this lifestyle, whatever you want to call it, who they actually do not have other partners. They're only each other's partner, but they'll go to parties and they'll like, they just like to be watched or whatever. They're just comfortable around other people. And so it's just whatever you and your partner decide and agree to do on that day. And that can change the next day.
So true.
So
nothing is permanent anyway.
Yes, it doesn't mean that now all of a sudden you're living in a house with 10 other people and everyone's each other's lover or anything like that.
Yeah, of course.
It's all on a spectrum of what you decide is comfortable for you and your partner and what you want to explore. And it's okay to also explore something and be like, no, that wasn't comfortable for me. Maybe another time, or something.
Do you think this goes back to this feeling, like you want to be so comfortable with whatever comes to your head and to your heart. So I think you also mentioned that's how I want to be with a partner. You want to be like fully, truly you. And this is why you, even if you think someone else is cute, you need to be verbalize it, because I think also comes from your honesty and how comfortable you are with yourself, and you want to have that honesty and that level of comfort with your partner.
Yeah, I mean, it's just being authentic,
Yeah,
right? Like being true to yourself, right?
yourself, and
not having to hide something or hide a part of who you are or what you want to do or what you're thinking.
That's so powerful.
Yeah,
I think this is one of the reasons that you are the Jade, right?
Well, it's all a learning process.
Yeah.
I definitely don't have it perfected.
Yeah, but you're amazing. I know you're a surfer. I know you're a pilot.
Yeah.
I know you ran for Congress. I know you own multiple businesses, and tell me about the Scarlet Society.
Oh yes, another one. It's one of my favorites. So this business was also born out of passion, but this isn't just a lifestyle business. But so around that whole time when I was having what was this midlife crisis, I was doing a lot of research online, how do I tackle this? A lot of reading books and I felt like the internet and the world, society was telling me, like, there's just not a lot out there for you now that you're 40. Now that you're done having kids, you're really not that useful to us anymore. And it was very insulting, actually. I felt like the media was saying, well, we don't really want to think about you having sex anymore, now that you're 40. And it's so subtle, the way that they minimalize women 40 and over. If you think about it, there's lots of terms for men and the older men, right?
So
Our
true.
silver
So
fox,
sexy.
and they're so sexy. But what do you call women that are attractive that are 40 and over? There's really not a great term, right?
So true.
I couldn't think of it. And Jennifer Lopez is one of my idols. And I was like, what do we call someone like J-Lo? There's not really a great term for it. So there's all these things that they're very subtle, but felt like it was minimalizing me.
You're right.
And women like me. And actually this was proven in a study that showed that media and society sees women in their 40s and over as complaining, emotional, perimenopausal, old and let themselves go, all these things, right? But if you actually interview the women, you actually find that women are very confident, they love themselves, they are more financially empowered than ever, and they just are really going for it. Correct. And so this image of women and what women actually feel, there's a really big disconnect, And so, going through all this, and also a lot of my friends are getting divorced at the time, and the same thing. There just was nothing positive about divorce on the internet. It was so traumatic, and it was so negative. Everything was so negative. And I just thought, you know what? There needs to be something that's not only positive, but gets women to push the envelope of their thinking. I really want women to start thinking, okay, now I'm 40, what do I want the second half of my life to look like, and what can I explore, And I wanted to inspire them, and I wanted just to push a little bit to get them to think a little more.
Yeah.
Where it's a little uncomfortable, oh, I could never do that.
I see.
But maybe in a year I could think about it, and get them to start thinking because the thing is fear is what keeps everyone from trying.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
Trying anything, from trying to start a new business, from trying to get a divorce, trying to have another baby, all these things, fear.
Get a new job, open a new
everything.
business, you name it, is fear
and
running
actually,
it.
You know what's a big one for women our age is even opening their own bank account. I have heard so many women in my life who are afraid to open their own bank account. Yes. And so, like,
because they lived a married life?
yes.
I see.
Yes, because I had one friend who was afraid that their husband would find out.
Huh.
Yes, I mean,
And what happens if they find out?
well, I don't know. Like, there's so many things that, money is power.
Money is power.
And they have no power. And so, so it's like, so even if you're just in this life and you're not even thinking about it, but if I can give you a tool or an article for you to read that would just plant a seed, maybe in 5 years, maybe in 2 years, that seed will grow and you'll be able to make a move,
Yes.
So the idea came from this whole experience in life. And so what we started a year ago was this editorial website, which was all long form feature articles written by journalists who had written for Prevention, Oprah, and Vogue magazine. So true journalists. And we wanted to write about all the topics that were a little bit taboo. So we also wanted to write about health, especially sexual health.
Yes.
And we wanted to write inspiring stories. So stories of other women who had gone through these, found their passion in life, or changed careers, or a divorce that was done really well, like our friend Marina and I, like we feel like we have successful divorces.
Which is so rare.
Yeah, well, it may not be as rare as we think. We just don't ever hear about them because we only hear about the bad stories.
The bad stories, correct.
But also, what are the elements of the successful ones, and how can we set women up to have successful divorces? And money and power is one of those. So that's how that started. So for a year, we developed these articles and this kind of database of feature articles. And then starting late last year, we started to develop the newsletter. So the concept is we want to be that one email in your sacred inbox that gives you the positivity and inspiration for you to read and plant seeds and grow and explore. So
what a powerful move from a powerful woman to other women in society that you want to plant that seed. When you were talking like this, I remembered when I went back to the school and I was like 28, 9 years old. I remember my sociology teacher. This is a time that I'm practicing Islam. I'm like super in the box. I'm like, I can't even think. I didn't even know that I'm in a box to be able to think outside of the box. I remember this term. The teacher said she didn't have kids, so I was like, no, I don't want to have kids because I was exposed to the idea of thinking outside the box. I was like, thinking outside the box? There's a box? It took me 4 to 5 years to understand how we think is literally, it depends to which society we're coming from, because we are in a box. From what is healthy eating, what are we eating, what is, like, let's say I'm Persian, my Persian food, my Persian Iranian habits, who I'm hanging out with, my belief system, with who I'm hanging out, what I want my future, what I want my kids to do, everything was in a box, which that lady planted that seed inside me, and then it took me 4 or 5 years to realize anything that I do, I've been brainwashed. Anything.
That's the key, is just to introduce these ideas. Maybe you're just getting out of a 10-year marriage and the sex isn't super great, but maybe by reading an article in this newsletter, you'll be like, I wonder what it's like to have a threesome. Or what's like to kiss a girl. I've never tried it. That was literally me like 4 years ago. Well, no, I had, but to actually like explore sexuality in all these different ways. I was like, if I don't do it now, when? I'm not going to do it when I'm 80? Maybe?
Absolutely. Like, I'm also coming from a culture, like, especially how I was raised, and I'm sure same thing with Asian culture. our sexual life, is in another box.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, we just don't even talk about it.
We don't talk about
Yeah.
it. We don't talk about it at all. And like, what do you mean you're enjoying sex? Or what do you mean you want to explore sex? Or what do you mean? Like, why even you're talking about it? So all of this is so taboo that I will get labeled as a whore. I will get labeled as a less of a person, less of a woman. So even if I want to explore it, I have less value now because I want to talk about it.
I know, isn't that too bad?
That is so bad.
I feel like life is so amazing and there's so many incredible things in life, and sex is definitely one of them.
Yes.
And the thing is, all of them live in their head. They all have fantasies.
Yeah.
Men, women, everyone. If you think women don't have fantasies, you're totally living under a rock.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree.
Except only the few who get to think out of the box actually live them in real life.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, thank you so much for staying with us and listening to our podcast, Femme Fatale by Helen. I'm here with my amazing friend, Jade Sheppard. So please continue to the second session.